You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah.
All right, welcome back to the show. It's this show is going to be the second show. It's going to be Wednesday show. That's where we're at. Wednesday show. I have to think about it. I don't know. It might be Thursday show. Who knows what I'll decide to put out there? But we were talking about cooling systems, and my show plays. This show is we record this for television. This radio show we record it for television at my studio, and then we play it on Fox 28 every day, Monday through Friday, at 6 to 6:30 on Fox 28, right after Panhandle Outdoors. So you, in 1 hour's time, you can turn at 5:30. You can tune into Fox 28 and watch Panhandle Outdoors about how to run a trot line, go fishing in salt water, go deer hunting, turkey hunting, whatever your heart's desire in the sporting world out there, and then tune into my show and learn how to take care of your cooling system, learn how to take care of your tires, learn how to take care of that truck that you're going to be taking out into the woods because hunting season is right around the corner. Believe it or not, it is right around the corner. You may not believe it. This is August. If I'm not mistaken, September it comes up. We start getting somewhere around it. I think bow season opens up. So you need to start thinking about that if you're going to go to the woods. Start getting your truck ready to get to the woods where if you're going slow speeds and low gear, that you're not going to overheat. When you're tracking, you want to make sure what's going on. If you're driving down the dirt roads, you're looking for tracks to see where animal crossings are. You want to make sure that your car doesn't overheat. Nothing worse than getting out in the woods in the middle of nowhere and finding out your cooling system overheats, where you have to put water out of a creek to get you back home. And then you've really got a mess. I've seen that a lot. I've seen that a lot in the past, really. So that's another mistake out there. Don't be if you have to, do it. I understand, but try not to. Preventive maintenance goes a long way in keeping your truck and car running a long time. But we're talking about the do's and don'ts of a cooling system that do-it-yourselfers sometimes do. We talked about radiator caps. We talked about not using the correct antifreeze, not reusing old antifreeze that you removed out of a car to change a part, like a water pump or a thermostat. Collecting it and save it. Collect it, yes. Dispose of it properly, yes, but don't reuse it. Reusing your hose clamps. A lot of people have the spring type clamps that come out of the factory. Those are used to put the hoses on very, very quickly at the factory. Now they've been on there for 50, 60,000 miles, and they've got a nice little pattern on there. And if you take that spring type clamp off and stick it back on, it stands a good chance of leaking on you. It does, because you may not put it exactly in the same spot you took it off, and it may develop a leak. The best thing I can recommend is when we take a hose clamp off, we put a new clamp on it when we can tighten down. What does a clamp cost? 75 cents to $1 at the most out there? I remember they used to be 10 cents. But the point being is, it's insurance to make sure that that hose isn't gonna pop off. Don't reuse your old clamps. We take clamps off, we throw them away, put new clamps back on. It seems to be one of the hardest things to teach a new employee of mine here is do not reuse old clamps. Even if we don't charge the customer for it, please make sure. At my shop, I tell them, put new clamps on there. That way I am ensured that hose is not going to leak. Nothing worse than do a coolant exchange, put everything back together, use the old clamp back on there, and the customer comes home and a couple of days later he comes back because he sees a couple of drips on the driveway. Not a good thing. So that's why I tell my employees, take a clamp off, change it. Do not reuse it. Now, another problem, speaking of taking clamps off and hoses off, the metal between the hose and where the hose goes on to like a thermostat housing. A lot of people don't clean that. What they end up doing, they take a hose off, they don't clean it or wipe off the coolant that may have got between the hose and the metal, and then they put the clamp on there, and then what happens is you form these little battery cells inside there, and it actually destroys. There's a term, it's not galvanic action, but Mark talks about it. What is it, Emery? Is there a term? What's the correct term on it?
Electrochemical degradation.
ECD. Well, yeah, mainly ECD works on hoses really bad.
I thought that's what you were talking about.
Well, yeah, it was ECD. Okay, we'll use that. Electrochemical degradation. That's when you take a hose, and you can take an old hose that's been on a car 5, 6, 7 years and split it. You're going to replace it, split it down lengthwise, and open it up, peel it backwards. You'll see cracks in it. And what those cracks are from is from electrochemical degradation, where you've got chemicals that are actually vibrating, making electricity, and that electricity eats the inside of the hose. And so that's what ends up happening. And so when it's eating the inside of the hose, and if you got it where you've got coolant between the clamp and the hose that can't move too well, too well, it actually starts to pit the metal and forms this white crusty corrosion. And so one mistake is people don't clean that. And so take a wire brush to it. If you see corrosion, when you pull the hose off, clean that area. Make sure that you've got a nice clean area, it's nice and dry, and then you can go ahead and take care of it. There's no chemical you need to put on it, no oil, you don't want to do that. You just want to make sure it's nice, clean, and dry, and put it back on, clamp it down, and you'll be fine. That's a good thing to do. It's good preventive maintenance, especially if you're a do-it-yourselfer. It doesn't take very long to do. A wire brush, a hose, something like, wire brush, sandpaper, just to clean the corrosion off. If you think you've got a problem with it's so pitted that it may leak, replace that part. I mean, thermostat housings, a lot of, like Napa Auto Parts, they carry thermostat housings in stock. You'd be surprised. Well, matter of fact, on some of the newer cars, you can't buy a thermostat itself. You have to buy the thermostat built into the housing. Like on Hummers and a lot of General Motors products, you cannot buy just a thermostat. You have to buy the whole housing and thermostat. I got Jeep Liberty, a 04 Jeep Liberty. I think, is it Carrie is calling me? Carrie, what's your question about your 04 Liberty, which got a V6 engine, I understand? Carrie, are you there? Did I lose you? I don't know, maybe I did lose them. Carrie, are you there? Hello there. Hello, Carrie. Oh, we lost them. That's why I probably scared them away. But Carrie, give us a call back. We promise not to bite your head off. But he's got a V6 Liberty. I don't have any idea what's wrong with them. And great cars. I really enjoy them. But we do, back to cooling systems over here. Not cleaning the metal between where the thermostat housing is and the hose goes on. That's a good area that ends up getting a lot of corrosion. We used to see a lot of that on brass copper radiators, but that's gone away because we've gone to plastic aluminum radiators. We don't see a lot of corrosion. We don't see that little galvanic action that's taking place like we did on metal thermostat housings or on the bottom of a water pump, where the lower hose slips on the bottom of the water pump. You used to see a lot of that with the old green antifreeze. Don't see that so much anymore, but we still see it. And we usually see it where people have taken the hose off and they've done work on it and they put it together wet. And it's a very easy situation to solve. If you see that, just pull the hose off, clean it up, stick it back on, clean the inside of the hose out, and clean the outside of the thermostat housing of the lower pump, stick it back on, you'll be fine. Let's see, we talked about that. Not using the manufacturer-specific antifreeze, we talked about that. I can't stress that. That's the biggest mistake I see shops do. I see do-it-yourselfers do. I see a lot of people do. They don't use the manufacturer-specific antifreeze. Give you an example. Chrysler antifreeze looks a lot like Toyota antifreeze. It's the same identical color, but one's a HOAT, H-O-A-T, and the other's an OAT. OAT, organic acid technology, and the other is a HOAT. Chrysler is a HOAT, H-O-A-T, hybrid organic acid technology. Well, the difference between hybrid organic acid technology and organic acid technology is reserve alkalinity. HOAT has reserve alkalinity. OAT, on the other hand, does not have reserve alkalinity. That's the difference between the two. They look the same color, they looked identical. If you put them in two clear jars, you couldn't tell the difference unless you knew what the chemical composition was. So that's why it's so important that the shop you choose, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, go spend the extra money. Buy the original equipment antifreeze designed for your car. Now, if you got the older model cars with the green antifreeze, the Go silica-based antifreeze, you can get away with putting that back in. That's pretty well generic. But the newer cars from about on General Motors from 96 forward, from Chrysler from 2001 approximately, Ford about the same thing, Mercedes, I want to say, around 96 on Mercedes. I mean, when they went to extended life antifreeze, you have to use that or you will suffer consequences. And the things that you will suffer, you would not believe, such as it eats plastic. Or it gums up. It actually becomes where it gels up inside there. Now, it's not something that happens quickly, like in 24 hours. It may take 6 months, a year, 2 years before this problem raises its ugly head. And the next thing you know, you've got a blown head gasket or you've got a bad engine, and it's too late. Now you've got yourself a $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 bill that could have been avoided by spending the extra $30, $40, $50 to get the right antifreeze put into your vehicle and exchanged, and put the right radiator cap on her. So I think I've covered the biggest things I see on cooling system do-it-yourselfers that I see that they do that are wrong or they need to be improved on. But the other thing is, I got a perfect example, was fan clutches. Now, Napa's a sponsor of my show, and I love Napa, and thank you very, very much for being a sponsor of the show, but there's certain things that I can't put on a customer's car because it makes them get poor gas mileage, and it actually can make them run hotter. And that is the aftermarket fan clutches on some vehicles. Give you a perfect example. A fan, well, I can give an example in a minute. A fan clutch, let me tell you how a fan clutch works. When you start the vehicle up in the morning, the engine is cold, the fan clutch doesn't work. It's not supposed to work. It's supposed to freewheel. It's supposed to let the car warm up quicker. As the car starts to warm up, as the radiator gets hot, it actually heats up the thermistor, this bimetal spring on the front of the fan clutch, allowing the clutch to engage. That's one type. And a lot of cars are what we call, they use that bimetal spring. So, and the other ones use just heat itself going to the viscous clutch disc. That's what a fan clutch is. It's like got oil inside of it and it allows it to slip. Well, the problem we got is if you've got an aftermarket one on there, it's designed to pull air, never to freewheel. It will pull air constantly, whether you start the car up and it's cold or going down the highway at 60 miles an hour if you've been running for 2 hours, the car's at operating temperature, and that's when a fan clutch is not supposed to work the other time. It does not work when it first cranks up in the morning, supposedly. Maybe for a split second it'll work till it sees that it's not hot enough to engage, and it disengages, allowing it to freewheel, not pull any air across the radiator, or when you're going down the highway at highway speeds. There's no reason for it to work. You're moving at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. You've got enough air coming across there. So it's using more energy, using more fuel from you, because now it's having to fight the air that's coming through there, actually creating a low pressure pocket of air in there, actually causing the car to run hotter than it should run. And you said, what? I find that hard to believe. Had a customer call me, John. John called me the other day. He's a buddy of mine, play golf with him. He said, James, I'm down here in Gainesville, and my car on the trip down here went up to 3/4 ways on the radiator, on the temperature gauge. And I said, it did? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, maybe the radiator's clogged up. No, the radiator's not that old. I remember I had it replaced a couple years down here when I had a problem. I said, yeah, I remember something about that. And I said, well, maybe the thermostat's acting up. And he said, well, in town it works great. And I said, really, in town? No problem. In town it's not running hot, right in the middle where it's supposed to be. But when I'm going down the highway at 65 miles an hour, it's actually running 1/4 of the way hotter than it normally does. But no problems here in town. And I'm sitting there going, I said, well, John, I remember you had a fan clutch put on there. It was aftermarket that they did down in Gainesville when you had that problem. Did you ever put the factory fan clutch on there that I recommended because your car sounds like a jet when it cranks and runs all the time? He goes, no, I never did. I said, John, there's your problem right there. Go put the original equipment that you buy from the dealership, which is twice, maybe 3 times more expensive than what they sell at Napa, but put that on there and see if the problem goes away. I believe the problem went away when he did that. Hey, if you got a car question, give us a call, 850-763-0555. My job is to help save you money on your own car repairs, or when you go get repairs, you know the right questions to ask and you know what the answers you should be getting. Hey, this is James Morris. Give us a call. We'll be right back with your automotive question.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah.